back at the Monday Night Hakel Shiurim. So tonight we have with us Rabbi Yehuda Green, who's going to speak on the topic of Minhagei Chabad, why we do what we do. Sure.
Okay, if anyone wants, there's a couple sheets here. I'll get to them later in this year, but you're welcome to see where we're going. So, a couple topics we're going to talk about tonight. One topic is how to wrap the Torah by Galila. Topic number 2 is next topic would be spitting by Aleinu, and the third topic is standing by Kriyas HaTorah. So those are the 3 topics that Meretz Hashem will try to cover tonight. I'm going to go through it, explain what we do, what other people do, and hopefully some of the reasons why and how it works. So firstly, try not to be shy. Here's the Sefer Torah that we're using. Anyone want to volunteer? Where are we supposed to do Hagbah? Where are we supposed to do Galila on this?
Can I try?
According to our minhag, sure.
Bottom third.
You don't have to make a whole thing out of it. Just you can tell me, or you can show. If you want to just do it. So I did Hagbah. Put it back down. Wrap it up.
How do you do Hagbah?
It's not tonight's topic, sorry. Okay, so if he did it correctly, it would be the bottom third. It's important to notice that. Anyone know where other minhagim, where's the world do it? Minhagei, where do they do it?
Top.
So they'll do the top third. What about the middle? Anyone do that?
I'm guessing people do
You're guessing people do it. People do everything. So we'll see. We're going to go through it and see a little bit. So Chabad minhag is bottom third. That's where you're supposed to wrap. That's where you're supposed to do it. And it's actually the hepech of the whole world. The whole world does the top third. We do the bottom third. We're going to go into it a little bit and explain why do we do down here and everyone else does up there. And what's the story with the middle? If someone's in shul and you watch somebody doing Galila and they're doing the middle, do you have to scream at them? Do you have to stop them? What do you got to do? Right. So you got to do that. So the minhag of the Olam is to do. It comes from minhag sans. They say that you do the top third of the Sefer Torah, and the reason why you do that comes from one of the reasons is because of mezuzah. Where is a mezuzah supposed to go?
Top third.
Mezuzah goes on the top third, more or less, reachable, good height, and we compare a mezuzah to Sefer Torah, so you do that. Another is from the Shinover Rebbe. He was Reb Chaim Sanz's son, and he says, no, the reason why we do it the top third is from the Kahanim in the Beis Hamikdash. What did they do? So the Kohen Gadol, when they're wrapping in the Avnei, where was it supposed to be? It was right under their elbows. And something very interesting, if you look at, those of you who like to look at Rebbe pictures, a lot of them I was looking through a bunch before I came, and it's hard to tell because it's black on black and you can't tell, but there are some pictures that you could see. Before davening, the Rebbe would lift up a lot of times his gartel to his elbows to make it to the top third over there. So those are 2 reasons.
How is your elbows top third?
Top third of your body? Roughly. I don't know, we could have someone,
Measure it.
instead of it being a lot of people just wear the garter on the waist, a little bit higher up than that. So that's what it looks like.
Isn't the whole point of the gold to separate the heart from
Below the heart still.
Right, so it's still below the heart. So you have a little bit of space over there, a little bit of options. So those are the 2 reasons for the Olam. Why do they do the top third? Either because of the Avnei or because of the mezuzah. Comes along, different Mefarshim, when they say, what's the connection? So they say between mezuzah, like, how do you have a connection? So they say one connection is, the end of Shema, you say, Usaftem, Ushartem. That by, Usaftem, you say, and there by mezuzah, there's Ksiva and Keshira, and also by Sefer Torah, there's Kricha and Keshira, so therefore, there's the wrapping and there's a tying, so there's a connection between both of them, between a mezuzah and between tefillin. So if you look in, I think this source I gave you, if you want to look on your papers over here. Actually, maybe I didn't give you this source yet. Okay. The Agadas Maharsha on Menachos, he talks about it like this. He says that, why do you do the top third? He said the Gimel Kasarim him, there's 3 crowns. Keser Torah, is the tefillin of the Reish. Nemar l'manti yah-Torah Hashem b'ficha. Al kein amar sheyeh zeh ha-keser shel Torah l'mayla, kedei sheyisol l'mayla. Al yidei ha-Torah. So we should be on top through the Torah. So dafka, you tie the top third to show that the Yidden should be on top, the Torah is on top, and this is like our crown, and that's why we do it like this. Okay, now you have that. You should have it in your papers over there in Gimel, where it says, the top of the page says Galila. So I'm going to go a little bit from the middle over there. So going back to the middle. So some people tie it on the top, most people. We do it on the bottom third. What about the middle? So you used to see like people do it in the middle. I wanted to go over them and tell them, you don't know what you're doing. Either do it like the Babich or do it like your minhag, but why are you tying it in the middle? So here, he says, it's actually okay. If somebody goes in the middle, you don't have to throw esrogim at them, you can leave them, it's fine. Why? The B'shita Einam Akiv Klal. V'af le-mitzvah ein kapeda likshar sever Torah v'shlisha elyon dafka. The ilu haya kapeda, how do we know that? If it was a kapeda and it was a big problem, then, since all the Shas and the placement, everyone doesn't comment about it, so it shows that Vade ein nafkamina kol kach v'chol eifin shekoshin shaper dummy. However you tie it, you do the top, the bottom, the middle, they're all kosher. V'kameinu lady isim medaktim b'zev v'kardav etzli, and you can say, what's the reason? Why do people do different heights? Or why would people do it in the middle? Or the top third is because that's where, when you're standing, that's just a convenient spot to do it. And therefore he says, if you see someone doing it on those different measurements, you don't have to pick on them and what have you. Okay, so what is our minhag? So I said our minhag is the bottom third. Why is that our minhag? So I just discussed how what everyone else does. They're comparing it either to the Avnei or the Kayin, that they're doing their Aveda because we want to be at the top, this is Kesser's Torah, or because of Mezuzah. Why does Chabad do what we do? So Rabbi Ashkenazi says when he was a kid in Kfar Chabad, the question came up, how do we tie it? They sent a letter to the Rebbe. This is also on your papers over here, starting from Dalet. I'm going to read from the second paragraph. So he says, I remember when I was little, at the beginning of the Rebbe's Nesias, so Kishagir Minhag Zeh Beis HaKnesses Chabad in Tel Aviv. So it came to the question came up in the Tel Aviv in the Chabad Shul over there. So he remembers, he was a kid, but he remembers that they asked the Rebbe, what did the Rebbe tell them? The mucker is from Gemara Tainus in Yerushalmi. It says like the Rav Shmuel Bar Nachman B'Shem Rabbi Yonasan, Haluchas Hayaruchai Shisha Tvachim, V'Racham Shalish, V'Hayu Maisha Tafis B'Tefchaim, V'Hakadosh Baruch Hu B'Tefchaim, Tefchaim Gavach Emsa. So if you have the Luchais, a total of 6 Tvachim. So Hashem is holding the top 2, Maisha is holding the bottom 2, and the middle 2 are empty. So why do we dafka want to tie it on the bottom? Is because it's like our connection. If you want to use Hasidic words, it's rus to the tata, it's rus to the ela, you're getting from Hashem is the top part. When we're doing our Avodah is the bottom part. So we want to have that connection to it, and that's why it's very important for us to dafka do it on the bottom. So Hashem wants to take it away from the Yidden when we did the Egel. Moshe holding it at the bottom. So Moshe goes and he grabs it away. His strong hand, Moshe holding on and not letting Hashem take it away. And so that, by us doing the bottom third, it shows on our connection to Torah, our Avodah, our job, what we're supposed to do. And then the last little bit on the bottom of your page over there, he held the bottom, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, with the Tefchaim Ha'el Yenam. He had the top third, and the middle was empty. And that's why it says Yad Chazaka, and that's why we do the bottom. Interesting to note, when the last little point over here is say when the Rebbe would get the Torah, when he would hand it in the Torah by Yaakov or something else, so he would usually take the Torah. He wouldn't take it from here. He would take it over here and then slide his hands down. So just interesting. So that's point number 1. Point number 1 is when we do it on the bottom third. Okay. Next case is spitting by Aleinu. So Aleinu is actually a lot more complex. There's a lot of interesting history about Aleinu. And where it comes from, how do we do it? If you have a sitter, you could look just to see a little bit in Aleinu. If you want to do the gematria in your head, the word Aleinu itself, the gematria of the word is umad, and standing. And like Aleinu is a little bit more of a holier prayer, holier tefillah, and you're supposed to stand by it when you do it. The first couple pesukim in Aleinu, hints, different people say different who wrote it exactly. So some say it was Rav Shmuel's Chaver, some say it was Yeshua, some say it was a mixture of both. So Yeshua actually put his name into Aleinu, but he put his name Hosea in it, and he put it in a like backwards. If you look at like his name, the Aleinu, the first pasuk starts with the ayin for Yeshua's name. You'll have to look to see it. Shalei Asanu is the shin going backwards. The next is Vanachnu Kairim, the vav, and then Hu Alekenu is the hey. So Heisheya backwards, he put his name into it. So it seems like Aleinu used to not be part of our davening. It seems like it was just something that was part of Musaf, and in Rambam, that's where he talks about. That's where he puts it. The Baal Keach says no, we say it daily, and fine. A little bit. Why did Yeshua make Aleinu? Where did that come from? Why was that such a significant? Why did he feel the need to make Aleinu? Anyone know that's something that's legendary? Huh? Yeah, we'll get to Minhagei in a few minutes. But he was the first one that said like this is something that we should do a daily, and Rabbi Yehuda, or he said that was instituted. Rabbi Yehuda, okay, we'll get to Rabbi Yehuda in a few minutes. The reason why Yeshua did it is Yeshua is the one who took the Yidden into Eretz Yisrael, and Aleinu is making a big havdalah between the Yidden and the Goyim, making a big separation. So he wanted to have that big separation. It was dafka done by Yeshua. Before we continue a little bit about Aleinu, just the spitting thing. So I remember when I went on Merkat Shlachas, then happened to see an article written on Chabad.org from Jay Litvin, Alav Shalom. So I don't know if the Shliach put it around specifically for us to see it or not, but it was a cute article. I actually brought it. I'll leave it here if someone wants to see it. And I happened to, while I was preparing the share, so I looked it up and I found it. But over there he was talking about like Bachim coming to a person's house. At least this is what I remember, and then I looked through it. It's pretty much the same thing. It's like you want a Bachim, they want Bachim for a minyan because they're a shiver or something else. So Bachim are coming to their house and the carpet is $4,000, $5,000 carpet, and the Bachim are going to split all over the floor. So he was like saying like, well, we want you to come be part of our minyan, but we don't really want you to spit all over the floor and stuff. So it's like so he writes a whole article. What's the significance of spitting? Why do we spit? What does it mean? And he said for himself, it was difficult for him to spit. He's like, I'm in Lubavitcher and I have a Lubavitcher shul, so I spit. But what's the spitting all about? So simply speaking, the reason why we spit by Aleinu, a couple reasons. The reason Hayim gives is because when you speak, you're creating saliva in your mouth, and therefore you don't want to get any benefit from that. So, whatever words you just said about Avodah Zarah and all these other things, you don't want to get benefit from it, so you're spitting it out. Remember being in camp when we were just starting our 3 fasts. Some of us were already bar mitzvah, and one of the guys was like, after he learned this, is like, he didn't want to talk the whole Tisha B'Av because he didn't want to have to create saliva, spitting, not spitting. It's like saving up to spit by Aleinu, which is like a whole silly thing, but thinking about that. Anyway, so one reason is you don't want to, you want to spit because you want to not get benefit from that. Another thing is, you just spoke about how all these bad things and Avodah Zarah and what have you, and then all of a sudden, now let me talk about Hashem. So you want to kind of make a hefsek. So another thing is you're spitting to make a hefsek, and you don't want to get any hana from that Avodah Zarah. You want to have a clean mouth, so you're cleaning out before you're saying Hashem. Bottom line, what he writes in the article is he's like, I had such a difficult time doing this whole spitting thing, because who bows to Avodah Zarah nowadays, and what does it mean? Then he realized, no, it's not where he's spitting, it's that he's spitting out about himself. Like you have a certain culture of the world that you're comfortable with, a certain gaiva that you have, a certain excitement and kach in the world. So it's kind of like you're spitting at that, and now I want to dedicate myself to Hashem. So that's what he writes in the article. Interesting article, but something that stuck with me that I enjoyed. So in Sifrei Tefillah it says that Rav Shmuel's Chaver is the one who wrote Aleinu. How does that fit in? So they say Yeshua wrote most of it, and he added a little bit to it. So now let's look at the part for Rabbi Yehuda ben Zakkai. You have your papers over there. You're welcome to see them. It says. Yehuda ben Zakkai, Tikkun Leimer Aleinu Achar Tefillah. He said you should say Aleinu after davening. Because of Alavush, time of Sha'imim Aleinu l'Shabeach Achar Kol Tefillas Kidei l'Shavchai Yisparech v'Yilachreya Lefanav Yisparech Sha'imim v'Anachnu Kayim. V'Achar Kach Latzeis Meveis HaKnesset Shuka May Evet Shenitu Rishus Meiravish and Mishtachim v'Hilachlei. You did your connection to Hashem. Now you're getting Rishus, and you're being a humble servant, bowing and leaving and going away from Hashem. That's one reason. Another reason the Bach writes, Hatam Lamir Aleinu. Why do you say it? Is to really litkoya b'libeinu kaidem sheniftarim lebeteinu before we go back home. Yichud malchus shemayim, to really think about the unity of Hashem. V'sheyachzik b'libeinu amuna zu sheyaver gelulim and aretz, that Hashem should remove all the avodah zaros from the earth. V'alilim karis u'karisun, smash them all down. L'takin elam malchus shadal yud, to fix and set up the world in the way of Hashem. Ki az gam yesh l'chol echa mi Yisrael masar matan emakutim v'matzlichim nifna levenu el alilim v'layalim v'achshav v'chas v'shalom shum hira avera. You're walking out a shul. Your end of the whole davening is now you're going to be mixing with goyim. Finish davening. The next step is going out to the world. And you're going to do your laundry if you're a bacher, if you're leaving or wherever, or hopefully you're staying in yeshiva all day. But if you're going out, and the regular person is finishing Aleinu who is going into the world. So if you're going into the world, you want to not see, and you can look around and say, oh, look how successful this guy is, look what's happening, and you might be influenced from those guys. And that's why you say Aleinu, to make a clear separation between me and them, and to kind of mechazik yourself. And the last one is V'ina Tefillah. He writes, Shetfilas Aleinu hu ke'ein ha'ara kol ha'tefillas. You just finished the whole davening. And when you finish davening, now, a big part of our davening is the difference, how Yidden are the best, Goyim are not, and like a big separation. To the extent as you might think when you're going down the street and you see something bad happening to a Goy, you should celebrate. Because that's kind of what your whole davening was like, how bad these people are and how we have to stay separate from them and we're better and different. That might be your attitude. You might be going down and say, car crash, yes, look at that, wonderful, that person just got hurt. Next, keep going down, I don't know, you see a fire in that building. Yay, look at all these people getting hurt. Drowning someone, I don't know, whatever you might see as you're riding down the streets. That's a wrong attitude. How do you know it's a wrong attitude? So Elena is telling us, we're making a separation between everything you said in davening. Make a separation between a person and their behavior. Very important to make that chiluk, that yes, you want wickedness to stop. Yes, you want bad influences to stop. But no, the Rishayim themselves, they're created by Hashem. That's not what we're davening for. And that's what he says. It's like a little PS at the end of the whole davening. We daven until then. Just daven that Hashem should destroy all these Rishayim. That's not really our goal, is to daven that all the wicked people in the world just die. Why not? Maybe they should all die. But he says over here, no, Hashem created everyone. Hashem created Goyim and Yidden. That's why Hashem's not happy when they're suffering and dying. That's not what we were davening for in davening, but we were davening for the evil and the bad and the wickedness that should happen. So based on this, back in the day when Aleinu was just started out, especially like in the summertime when you do Mincha and Meyer next to each other, they didn't do Aleinu after Mincha. Because you didn't need to do Aleinu. According to the Bach's reasoning, the Bach's reason is because you want to make, when you're going out to deal with a Goyim, you need to make sure you don't, well, here you go, you're not going out after Mincha, so you don't need to. Obviously now, Minhagei, everyone, the custom is that we do it. But in theory, for a while, that wasn't the case because it wasn't necessary. Huh? That's Yom Kippur. So, right. Something interesting when I first moved here. So we didn't have a minyan every day, no Chabad minyan. So we used to go over to OZ for davening every day. So I wouldn't spit very openly, but I would spit by Aleinu.
What, 15 years ago?
How many years ago? 10, 11 years ago, not too long ago. Before we had our daily chakras. And one of the rabbis, Rabbi Rizal, came over to me. And he said to me, he's like, really, I should do it too? And he showed me in their siddur, they took out a couple words by the spitting part. Shehem Mishtachim Lehevel Virik was their nusach. And they took out the word Virik. If you do the gematria of the word Virik, it's the same gematria as Yashka. So, not sure. So I just remember he told me, he's like, in theory we should put it back in because we took it out because of them, because of the censorship that the Goyim would actually check up on the Yidden, and it's actually true in Germany in the 1800s. They hired this person. It's like crazy. They actually hired a person to sit in shul and to make sure that we didn't spit by Aleinu. So it's like a different thing. So you'll see. So here we come along, we're like, okay, everyone has to spit and do it, but not necessarily. You're going to see over here that the Shalah writes against it. So that's the next part. As far as spitting Ma'alenu, the Shalah writes like this. He calls it a tagar. I don't know how you translate it. Whatever. If you're like, not so good if you according to spitting, according to the Shalah. He writes like this. He says, number one, there's two reasons very clearly that you shouldn't spit. Reason number one, you shouldn't spit. They don't even know why they're spitting, so that's why they shouldn't spit. What do you mean they don't know? So what if you don't know? There's so many beautiful things we do, even if we don't know it. So why should you not spit? A person who's spitting, often he doesn't understand what he's saying in davening. So what does he do? And then you spit. That's by Hashem. You're not supposed to spit by Hashem. So the Shalah says it's foolish to spit because if you don't know what you're saying in davening and then you're spitting at that part, it's disrespectful to Hashem. It's not, you're trying to show respect for Hashem. You're not. V'gam hu sakana gedela, and it's also a big sakana. Shema yachshavu omay shebezmaninu shalim nemar kechol hamayinam. We're telling, oh, you guys are just like all the other nations of the world and everything else, and we're better. So it's something that two reasons not to spit is A, because it's dangerous, and B, because you might spit at the wrong spot. And if you spit at the wrong spot, instead of giving Hashem honor and kavod, you're doing the opposite.
Why did they spit out with saliva?
Of the you're saying the other words, but hopefully you're not doing it by Hashem's name. So that's a reason for those who say maybe you shouldn't not to spit. But the Taz writes, he's like it's okay to spit, and that's the last little part that I have over there of Alkane. He says it's okay. Why? Even if you spit, I think he's saying, at least what I understand from him, even if you spit in the wrong place, you know you're not spitting because of Hashem, and at Hashem you're spitting because of the Avodah Zarah and what exists over there. And this is a big, it's a big covet, it's a big honor for Hashem that you're mentioning it, and therefore, according to the Taz, no problem to do it. And so, that's the second one. The second one is yes, spitting, but to understand those who don't spit, there's a reason for them not to spit. It was taken out of their Siddurim once upon a time, and because they feel they might spit at the wrong time, so it takes away from that. The last topic over here is, I'm a little less clear on it. I'll tell you why, is because by the Rebbe he did two different things. And when the Rebbe did different things, so people could comment and say different reasons why, but I didn't have time to look into it fully, so therefore I'm not sure exactly how it goes, and that's, if anyone wants to add to it, they could. And that is standing by Kriyas HaTorah. You're supposed to stand, you're supposed to sit. How did it work? So, by the Rebbe, anyone know? How was the process? Yeah?
Monday, Thursday. Basically, when it's 3 hours, we usually stand Shabbos that day.
So it's good. Actually, the Frierdiker Rebbe did that. The Frierdiker Rebbe would sit by regular Kriya on Shabbos, but by Mincha he would stand. By the Rebbe, a little bit different. In the early years, and this people said they saw, until he had his heart attack in Tafshin Lamed Ches, he would stand. Leaning on the stender the whole time, even between, he didn't sit down between Aliyahs, the whole time he was standing, and by after Tafshin Lamed Ches, so then he would sit.
Even on Monday, Thursdays?
As far as I understand, I don't know.
Shabbos Mincha sometimes, yeah, Monday, Thursday.
He would stand then.
Yeah, Monday, Thursday.
Okay, so Shabbos then.
You would never stand Monday, Thursday? No, I would always stand. Shabbos Mincha.
Even after lunch.
Yeah, even after lunch. Shabbos Mincha sometimes that it's not long.
So
A friend of mine once told me that Slavic said that could be has to do with the difference if the Torah is on the same level as when you're sitting.
Yeah, so we're going to get to that from the Arizal. One of in his siddur they quote that. That's part of it I'm not totally sure about. I know, just before we get into it a lot, when I was a bacher in Los Angeles, by the road, he made everyone stand. And it was like this. It wasn't like a separate beamer or anything else. And he would not start Kriya until everyone was standing.
He was the Balkar.
He was not the Balkar, no.
He would not allow it.
He wouldn't allow the Balkar to start. So the Torah writes from Star Shalom that while I didn't make a copy, but while you could look at it over here if you want. While the Torah is in transit, while the Torah is moving, you have to stand. So let's say when they're taking out the Torah and bringing it to this place, so then you got to stand. As far as during laning, simply speaking, According to Shulchan Aruch, it's okay to sit. It says in certain Pesukim, it says the place Amida that you have to stand. So how could anyone say that you don't need to stand? It says the word Amida, standing. So the Levush says, when it says Amida, it means shtika. Amida means quiet. So standing, stopping, to be quiet. And he proves it, huh?
That means you could talk the whole time. That means the whole time you could talk.
By Kriya Sator, by laning itself. Yeah, by laning you have to be totally quiet by laning.
Oh.
Not by the Torah is going. No. Not when the Torah is going. That everyone agrees. You have to be standing. By I didn't write down all the pesukim.
Pasuk in Ezra when it says Amdu Kol Ha'am.
Right.
When the pasuk when you open up the Torah, Amdu Kol Ha'am.
The method there was.
I'll say it. They were quiet.
Because there's another pasuk that says like Amida, so they said it can't be. If that other pasuk means Amida, why is the second one? So it means that during Kriya you have to be quiet, not necessarily standing. That's what the Vush says. Shari Ephraim says you could sit, but you're supposed to stand when they're saying like Baruch Hu. That part, it's a davar sheba kedusha. You're supposed to stand, and he says it's best if you want to stand for the whole bracha, but at least to stand for that. Baal Kariya for sure has to stand. That's like Kabbalah Soteria, Har Sinai, no questions. That even for sure have to stand. I was leaning once, and I was leaning on the bima, and Rabbi Moshe Bogomilsky was in shul, and he told me, he like, I don't remember how he told me, but he definitely gave it to me. So you can't do that.
Probably pulled the beam up.
And then pulled the bima out from under me. Something fell on it. Huh?
That's why you don't lean anymore.
That's why I stopped leaning. The Maharam is probably like the biggest one. He says for sure you need to stand by leaning. Just like by a bris, notice that people stand by bris and no chairs.
So it's not like it's for shame.
About standing.
Yeah.
Yes, but Maharam holds very strongly. It's a machlekes back and forth. So many different opinions say this, yes stand, no stand. Maharam holds you do need to stand. Then he said, back in the day, the way the Kriya used to work is you would have an aliyah, one aliyah at the beginning, one aliyah at the end, and so then if you had this concept that you only need to stand by the brachas and by Baruch Hu, so it's once at the beginning, once at the end, not such a problem. But nowadays, we have how many aliyahs by a regular Shabbos? And 7, 8. So many times sitting and standing like, okay, I'm going to get up every time there's a bracha. You might miss it sometimes. So therefore, he's like, no, you got to stand the whole time. And because Baruch Hu, you have to stand. Back from the days of Moshe Rabbeinu until the days of Rabbi Gamliel, everyone stood when they were learning. So then the heter became, the days of Rabbi Gamliel, you could sit when you're learning. So if you could sit when you're learning, so would that heter also apply to Kriya Satorah or not? So he said, one second, the reason why he let you do it is because people were weaker, but also because you could just be focused and learn better. By Kriya, you don't need that second reason so much. So therefore, they said those who could stand should stand. Those who can't stand shouldn't stand because they're too weak. But then it says it looks like a whole mix and it doesn't look proper. So then they said, okay, fine. Everyone could sit. But if you want to be machmer, then you can stand, no problem. But between gavra and gavra, pretty much everyone says you for sure don't need to stand. That is the machlekes to Rishonim back and forth. The Arizal, he said, what the Arizal did, the Arizal would sit. So just how it works in halacha, if there's a machlekes Rishonim and then Kabbalah says something differently, we follow Kabbalah. So machlekes is between the Rishonim, yes stand, no stand. The Arizal was no problem sitting; it's totally fine to sit. Therefore, theoretically, that would be the maskana that you could sit. We'll get into the bima thing now. If the Arizal would go when the Torah was taken out, he would escort the Torah. He would wait till it was opened. He would look at it, and then he would sit down, and then he stayed sitting the whole entire time. But in his siddur, his Talmud, one of his Talmudim that wrote it, right in there, that's only when there is an amud. As long as there is an amud, as long as there's a whole bima situation, so then it's a separate metzias, so then totally fine to sit. I don't know if that means when there's no bima, what the story is. I'm not sure about that. After Tav Shalom Ches, we'll just finish off last point. After Tav Shalom Ches, the Rebbe would sit on Shabbos by Kriya. However, he also never said Hagaimel. Why didn't he say Hagaimel after the heart attack? So you only say Hagaimel when you're 100% better. So the fact that he's considered not 100% better or whatever, that's why he sat afterwards. So that's why people say, well, he was still considered sick and therefore was able to stand. Those who argue against it, That's why he sat by after Tav Shalom Ches.
And this was, again, we said this was weekday and Shabbos?
No, just Shabbos.
Because we did daven in the front, that was only later years, or also like right after Ches? They used to daven in the front, they used to relate in terror in the front. When did that start?
I don't know. Not sure. The other ones say, what do you mean? The Rebbe sat for hours and standing, and he was able to give out dollars after his heart attack. So they don't really take that. So just to give a summary, if there's a bima and a whole thing for the Sefer Torah, then it sounds like it's totally fine for you to sit. If not, so that's the part I'm not sure about. So we'll leave it. You'll see what you can ask your Rebbe's what they want you to do. There is a letter, just another letter of Rabbi Rashab, and he says you're doing a mitzvah when you're following Kriya, if you're listening quietly, and if you do listen respectfully and quietly, then to learning Torah, then the Torah is going to fight with you and it'll bring you beg Rachmanis for you for your Gashmis and your Ruchnias brachas. And I'll leave you off with a question: how come by Kriyas Torah we don't seem to be as makbid to hear every single word, but Kriyas Megillah we are? What's the difference?